that all too often accompanies the work we do up here. Now you're in a new role. And I want to give you a quick opportunity to comment on how you see that new role in terms of working with Democrats.
Yeah.
Who also love their country and want to see a successful U.S. foreign policy.
I would more than concede that point, that everyone on this committee, and frankly, every member of Congress comes here with a noble and patriotic objective. I will equally concede the point that as a member of Congress, I could do partisan with the best of them. And I understand that we all had constituents that had different views, and we did our best to represent them. I hope that during my time I did that for the people of South Central Kansas. They might well have had different views than the people of your district or other members' districts. I hope, and there were exceptions to this, but I tried every day to do that with dignity and respect. I didn't always quite achieve it, but I tried. In this role, I'll do the same. You have my word. I will work with members from both sides of the aisle to achieve America's foreign objectives. We'll disagree often about how to get there, but I will be surprised if it's frequently the case that we disagree about what we're trying to accomplish.
I very much appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Secretary, given the unprecedented and troubling Russian interference in our 2016 elections, which have been certified by all of our intelligence agencies, including the one you headed when you were there, Congress passed and the President signed the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, which includes at least 7 mandatory sanction provisions against Russia. Mandatory sanctions, Russia undermining cybersecurity, Russian crude oil products, Russian financial institutions, dealing with Russian corruption, sanctions evaders, and human rights abuses, on and on. There were 7 major mandatory sanctions with respect to Russia. How many of those mandatory sanction provisions has the President imposed?
I don't know how many of those different authorities have been used. I know that there have been significant sanctions imposed under CATSA, and I know that there are many more in the queue, but I couldn't tell you how many of those 7 have been used. I'll bet you can tell me.
Yes, Mr. Secretary. The answer is 1. And I think on a bipartisan basis, that bill passed overwhelmingly, as you know, here in the Congress, and I think it absolutely expressed a certain point of view with respect to that subject. Not just that subject, but certainly that subject. And I think we do expect full compliance with the law by the administration, and I would give you the opportunity to pledge your commitment to that implementation of what is now statute.
Yes, sir. You can count on it. May I give you one caveat to that?
Of course.
It is the case that Secretary Mattis and I are both working to find places where we think that legislation did not give us enough room to make sure that we don't do something that was unintended with respect to some of our allies who have historic relationships with, in particular, Russian equipment. And so I think Secretary Mattis will take the lead, but I'll be part of it alongside him to see if we can get Congress to consider giving us waiver capacity so that we can ameliorate what I think are not the intended objectives of the CATSA legislation.
Thank you. I have a quick last question because I'm going to run out of time. Gosh, I wish we had more time. Earlier this month, in a story by Ronan Farrow, I think in the New Yorker, it was reported that a company called Black Cube, involving Israeli operatives, investigated former Obama administration officials who were involved in the Iran nuclear negotiations. Are you aware of that story, and were you familiar with any aspects of that alleged investigation?
I'm familiar with the story, but I read it as new information in the same way that sounds like you did as well.
And to your knowledge, the administration had no involvement in said activity?
To the best of my knowledge, that is absolutely correct, sir.
I thank you, Mr. Secretary. Look forward to working with you.